Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us this morning. As a reminder, we will have a Q&A period at the end. Please use the question and answer section. Your mics have been muted, so use that section to ask any questions. You can also ask questions after this session by emailing me, Laura Vermilya, lvermilya@ohsaa.org, or Doug Ute, our executive director, at any time with any financial question that you may have. So hopefully you can all see the screen here that says financial update for winter 2024 results. We'll be going through that. Again, thanks for joining us. This session is being recorded, so it will be posted later today or tomorrow out there on our YouTube site. So we're going to jump right in. So this is a review of our winter 2024 sports results. Just a reminder how this first slide works is the sports are down the left-hand side. And then going across, we're reporting on attendance. And that's all attendance, total attendance, sectional, district, regional, and state combined. Ticket revenue, again, for all levels, includes both online sales and cash at the gate sales where applicable. Other revenues, typically radio, programs, sales, things like that. And then the total expenses for the events, and again, that's all levels of the events, sectional, district, regional, and state, and then profit or loss for each sport. And that's basically total revenues less total expenses. So boys basketball, no surprise, has always been the leader in the winter as far as total attendance, 478,629. Total ticket revenue, $3,796,000, so almost 3.8 million. Other revenues, again, radio and program sales, as well as some suite sales that are done at University of Dayton. And then total expenses for boys basketball, just over 2 million, and the profit from boys basketball is 1,825,000. Girls basketball, also a profitable sport, highly attended at 220,963. Ticket revenue, 1,007,000. Other revenues, 52,000, and total expenses just over 1.5 million with a profit of 286,000. Ice hockey, done regionally and state, 20,000 attendance, 210 revenue. Minor other revenues and 144 in expenses, also profitable, 68,000. Bowling, the biggest expense here in bowling is obviously the lineage fees that we pay for at each level of the tournament. So this is a sport that does not make money, but again, highly attended, and that attendance is continues to do well. Gymnastics, again, smallly attended sport, also due to all the equipment that needs to be rented for gymnastics, also a high expense sport that also does not make money. Swimming and diving, again, all levels, 33,053, 309,000 in ticket revenue, but expenses of 392. Also, and then wrestling, this is both boys and girls wrestling, and includes all levels, and also a sport that does make money for us. Wrestling attendance at the state level was very well attended. And in fact, girls wrestling attendance doubled last year, which was, if you recall, the first year for girls wrestling last year. So we saw a double attendance in that, and we expect that continued growth. Boys basketball attendance at state and then really at all levels was the highest we've seen since 2019. So that's starting to come back. And then overall winter attendance was about the same as last year. If you've attended some of our regional meetings that we had in the month of April, probably heard Doug mention that, you know, since 2003, we had been seeing 5% declines in attendance. And we have not returned to that trend since COVID. We've actually been doing fairly well, holding our own year over year since the pandemic, post-pandemic. And then just as a point of note, the cash sales were about 25% of total sales in winter. That was up from fall, where the fall cash sales were around 17%. So a little bit higher in winter. And again, I think that's to be expected, particularly at basketball. So moving to the next slide, this shows the results based on our athletic district areas and then the regional and state. So here, this slide works with the districts are listed down the left-hand side, and then regional and state are combined here, and the sports go across the top. So each column is for the sport. And these sport totals tie back to the slide that we just saw. So no surprise, boys basketball at every district and regional and state level is the driver and the leader here in winter as far as generating revenue and generating profitability. Girls basketball, similarly, you have a few districts where girls basketball lost money, and that's really just about attendance versus at those games versus other district areas. Wrestling, again, pretty expensive sport, so it is a challenge at the level below state to make money there in wrestling. Similarly, bowling, gymnastics, and swimming and diving usually are all do not turn profits just because of the expense structure of those sports. Probably very similarly in your athletic department, so no differences there. So again, total net revenue for winter, net from the sports, 1,929,000, the same as we saw on the previous slide, 1,929,000. So here combined are the financial results after winter. So this is fall and winter. So the whole first 8 months of the fiscal year where we all are. And again, if you were at the regional meetings, this slide was in there. The only difference here is winter sports was estimated at the beginning of April when we prepared that slide. Here we have final results. So the number has changed slightly based on final expenses that have come in. So not to rehash fall, but here it is for you on the top line. First column's actual, budget, and then comparison, whether better, worse, favorable, unfavorable to budget, and then the percent favorable to budget. So winter sports, 1,929,117. That was the net profit from all winter sports versus a budget of 1,922,498. So we came in basically right at budget for the winter sport year, bringing our tournament net profits to $5,963,000 or $6 million versus a budget of 4,924, round up to 5 million. So we're about $1 million ahead of budget, which primarily came out of this fall sports season. Other operating revenues, $2,499,000 versus $2,504,000. So again, within budget there, 2% ahead of budget. And then other operating expenses, again, we've talked about this before, $4,282,000 versus $4,589,000. We always want to be under that budget number. In this case, we're $307,000 under, or 7% better than budget which is always our goal to be better in budget and operating expenses. That means we're doing our job here at the office. So operating profit 4.181 versus 2,789,000. Again, this is for 8 months of the year. 1,000,003 better, so about 50% better than budget. Cash on hand, again, 20 where we are is operating cash 12 million. Our reserves, our rainy day fund 9.2 million. If you recall, about 4 years ago, we had no rainy day fund, so we're now in good shape should another catastrophe happen. And then total cash and investments 21.5 million, 11.5. So again, this is just a point in time. March is always our highest peak of cash in the bank, whether it's reserves or operating cash. That's just, after the winter season, that's our peak. We know that will decline. And by the time we get to July, we expect that to be closer to about 15-ish million, which will be 9 months cash on hand. So just a reminder, you'll see this slide, and if you've been on with us before, this slide shows up over and over. Our financial objectives: operate at a profit. Right now, our budget's a $1.9 million profit. We're on track to beat that for this year. Build our reserves. You've heard Doug say in this time here, our goal is to get to 9 months cash on hand. We're currently over that. We're at 6.6 in operating and 4.9 in reserve, so about 11.5 that we saw on the previous slide. And that is a point in time. By the time we get to the end of the year, we'll be at that 9 months. And our investment policy is to never go below that 9 months. And then support opportunities for student participation. And right now we're doing that through student scholarships and the athletic donation to schools, or the athletic enrichment fund distribution that we provide to each member school. If you recall, at the beginning of the year for last year, received $1,250 from our newly established athletic enrichment fund. That's shown here on this slide. We'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute. Again, also this slide should be somewhat familiar if you came to the regional meetings or have participated before. When rewind 4 years ago, we had about 1.5 months cash on hand. We had done a lot of things through the pandemic to minimize what we were providing to schools. And at that time, we were paying for the catastrophic insurance and the arbiter software, but none of these other things were happening. We'd either stop those or ask schools to pay for those or whatever. We had stopped scholarships. Schools were paying for greens fees and lineage fees and weight management. We had stopped travel reimbursements. I don't know if y'all recall, but we never had a student ticket price level at all until 2 years ago. Was the first year that we had a lower price for student tickets. And then the athletic enrichment fund. So going back to 2020 and 2021, the amount we were kind of supplementing to schools was $765,000. And then we turned back on in 21 and 22, some scholarships. We started paying the greens fees and lineage fees, and gave back a minimal amount and some travel stipends for regional and state events. And then, we had continued to grow profitably and boost our cash on hand. And so last year, we did some more things. We increased the travel stipends. We rolled out the student ticket prices, which, how does that help? Well, that decreases our revenue. So that's kind of a give back there. And then this year, we did a few more things, and we expect that athletic enrichment fund, we have it pegged in here to be at last year's level, but we have not proposed that to our board. And I think you heard Doug say we'll be proposing more than last year. So you can expect a check that'll be more than the $1,250. So giving back to schools and helping supplement our students is part of our goal. That is it as far as the slides I have prepared. But again, if you have questions, you can take a minute to type those into the Q&A section. You can always also circle back with me or with Doug at any time, and we'll address whatever financial questions you have. Again, this is being recorded, so it will be posted on our website later today or tomorrow for your peers and colleagues that could not attend. But we do always appreciate you taking your time out this morning to hear how the sports season went. So I'll give it another minute. Also, I think, yeah, we'll give it another minute to see if there's any Q&A. I thought I saw one, but I don't. All right. Thanks everyone for joining us. I wish you all the best in spring tournament season. Thank you.